This is a 2022 Porsche Macan S, the mid-level trim of the compact crossover SUV from Zuffenhausen, and the first stop on the Porsche product train. If you stay on that train, by the way, stops include the Porsche 718 and the Porsche 911 GT3, but hey, I digress. The Macan has actually been updated a few times over the years, but is still rolling on its first generation, which came out for model year 2015. For 2022, the Macan gets a refreshed look, more standard equipment, and more power. This particular Macan S is painted in Genesian Blue Metallic, which is a $700 optional paint. And as I mentioned, the Macan S is dead center in the lineup now, above the base Porsche Macan, but below the now top-trimmed Macan GTS. And that, of course, puts it mid-grade in terms of power as well. But this actually has the same power as the Macan GTS did just last year. Speaking of, I actually reviewed a 2020 Porsche Macan GTS, and I have to tell you, I really enjoyed it. But if you want to see yourself, you can check it out. I have a link in the description. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I am still waiting on my mid-cycle update. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a 2022 Porsche Macan is $56,250. The Macan S starts at $66,750, and my test car did have a few options and cost $73,040. With all that, this is a good time to pull over and show you around and inside the car in a bit more detail. All right, let's take a closer look at the 2022 Porsche Macan S. In terms of exterior appearance on this car, not that much has changed since the 2021 model year, but there are a few quick things to look at. Looking at the car in front, we've got a tweaked design, dynamic lights that move with the steering wheel that Porsche calls Porsche Dynamic Light System is now standard on the Macan S, and they look like that. Looking at the rear of the car, you can see the faux diffuser-like design has crept up into the body a bit and includes where the license plate goes as well. And now we have what Porsche calls sport design side view mirror covers, and they look like that. The wheels on the Porsche Macan have grown by an inch across the lineup. So instead of 18s, you get 19s on the base car. Instead of 19s, you get 20s on the Macan S, which you can see here. And the Porsche Macan GTS now rolls on 21-inch wheels. And these Michelin Latitude Sport 3 tires that you see here are quite good. The brakes aren't bad either. Looking at the car in profile, the same basic shape carries through, of course. I will go ahead and put the dimensions on the screen right now so you can see that. And I have a full set of specs in the description. All right, let me show you cargo room. You get 17 cubic feet of storage space behind the second row, and if you need more than that, that's easy enough to do. And now you have 53 cubic feet of storage space and room for two. All right, let's look at the back seat. This is a compact SUV, so space is so-so, it has to be said, but it's not bad considering. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and as you can see, I've got a couple inches of knee room and a couple inches, about an inch of headroom as well, 2.5 centimeters. And as you can see, seat bottom's not too bad. My knees are bent right around 90 degrees, so it's not too bad. Because I have the $2,240 premium package in this car, I do have heated seats for the outbound rear passengers and a little bit of temperature control as well. And looking down here, some USB ports to charge devices, etc., etc. And if you don't have three people back here, you do, of course, get an armrest with cup holders. Hey, how about that? Otherwise, this is a lovely and pleasant place. I think short trips for adults would be just fine back here. But anyway, let's get to the more comfortable place up front. Yeah, definitely more comfortable up here, of course. and you've got what I think is a nice looking interior. It is a dark interior, but it's not black, so I will take it. You do have good and supportive seats, but these are not the most supportive seats you can get. The Macan GTS has something better, but still, you've got deep upper bolsters here and pretty darn decent lower bolsters as well, and the usual adjustments right there on the seat, and the headrest adjusts right there as well. You can push it in or out. Nice Macan S kick plate right there, and the usual controls on the door right here. However, there is one thing: the trunk release is also right on the door right here, and I actually found that a very convenient place for it. You do also have 2-position seat memory right here. It is tilt and telescope steering. It is right there and manually adjusted, and trademark Porsche key is right here on the left-hand side, right next to the headlight adjustment. The steering wheel has a nice thick rim that's easy to hold on to, and plenty of controls on it right here, including the drive modes right here, which I'll talk about in just a moment. This is a new instrument cluster setup right here. You've got 2 analog gauges here and here, and then a small screen right there that has some adjustments, and I'll show you that in just a moment. The analog clock that you see right here is standard with the Porsche Macan. Go ahead and start the car. There is that digital screen lit up, and if I show you these controls right here, we do have a couple of options. So if I use this, I can scroll, and you can see the different things that I can look at here. Some interesting information you can look at if you wish. Also, at any time, you can just press this diamond button and go back to this screen with what I think is the most useful information. Just next to that is our 10.9-inch center console touchscreen. And if you look down from that, we have a shortened for 2022 shift lever right here, and these haptic controls built into the lower center console, and that includes dual zone climate control right here and heated seats. Now, front heated seats are actually standard on the Macan, but because we have front and rear, that's what we were paying extra for. Oh, and I should mention, you can see it down here, and also for a moment on that other screen on the instrument cluster, this does come standard with wireless Apple CarPlay. Got a nice little storage spot right there, a couple of cup holders right here, and yes, you could put your smartphone there, but this has the $580 wireless smartphone charging system right here, and the phone actually slots in right there, and it's a real nice convenient place for it. Also, you could see we have a couple more USB ports right there, and this is part of the $50 smokers package, if you're into that kind of thing. All right, let's talk drive modes. We do have the Sport Chrono package, which means we have 4 drive modes: Normal, Sport, Sport Plus, and Individual. And if you look down here, we also have the Sport Response button. And if you press that, you get 20 seconds of the powertrain being fully charged up, ready to give you as much performance as you can get out of this car for a limited amount of time. So, could be a useful thing if you need to make a pass on a 2-lane road or something like that. Speaking of which, I'm pretty anxious to get back to driving, so let's do that. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. All Porsche Macans get more power for 2022. The base Macan now squeezes 261 horsepower out of its 2-liter turbo, and the top-of-the-line GTS now gets 434 horsepower from a twin-turbocharged 2.9-liter V6. But the Macan S really is not that far off. It makes 375 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque from that same twin-turbocharged 2.9-liter V6. And more importantly, that beats the 2021 Porsche Macan S by 27 horsepower and 29 pound-feet of torque, respectively. Moreover, peak torque comes quite early and stays. You reach 383 pound-feet of torque as early as 1,850 RPM, and it keeps producing that much until you surpass 5,000 RPM. Very broad torque band. And peak horsepower pretty much takes off from there. This one is genuinely surprising. Peak horsepower is usually at an RPM. In the Porsche Macan S, you get 375 horsepower at 5,200 RPM, and you continue to make that amount of horsepower all the way through 6,700 RPM. That is impressive, especially for a turbo engine. Redline, by the way, is 6,800 RPM. More importantly, this is just a great engine. It's smooth, it's balanced, it has a nice clean sound, and quite a bit of power as well. Woo, boy. We get nice quick shifts from a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, a PDK, Porsche Doppelkupplung transmission, of course, and all Macans get all-wheel drive. With all that said, it's probably no surprise that fuel economy isn't great. More power, etc. But hey, I'll go ahead and put what you get up on the screen right there. And as you can see, the base Macan, which is right next to it now, does do better. And the GTS is actually pretty close to the S, but not quite as good. But typically, let's be honest, you don't buy Porsches if you're miserly when it comes to fuel. And you might buy a Porsche because you like to accelerate quickly. Well, good news. This definitely does. But of course, I can do a lot better than tell you that. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. We do now have Macan GTS power, and because we have the Sport Chrono package, we have a launch control of sorts. So let's see how it goes. All right, coming to a complete stop. Foot hard on the brake, throttle. Ooh, over 5,000 RPM, launch control activated. Lift off the brake. Oh man. Whoa. Oh man. Whoa. Wow. Wow. That was better than I remember, if I'm honest. Wow. What a hard and aggressive launch. No tire spin that I heard of. That was just all-wheel drive, gripping off and launching us off. Starting at over 5,000 RPM, we had tons of power to work with right at the launch. And wow, that 7-speed dual clutch transmission, bang, bang, bang. Oh man. Fantastic acceleration from this compact SUV. 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds with launch control, and still, even without it, Porsche says 4.6 seconds. This is not slow. But of course, life is much more than straight lines, and this Porsche is very aware of that. Even though this is your entryway into Porsches, it does have a lot of kit to make it a darn decent handler. You get adaptive shock absorbers, which Porsche calls Porsche Active Suspension Management as standard, and you have, obviously, generally speaking, a really well-tuned suspension. So, of course, even though it's an SUV, it can take a few corners. But a quick caveat, the Macan GTS is definitely the most aggressive, much more sporty driving inclined Macan you can get. It is a noticeable difference. You are 0.4 of an inch lower to the ground, you get stiffer springs, and there's also a sport package available, which turns it up even further. That said, I was still very curious to see how this car handles. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a handling test in this 2022 Porsche Macan S. I do have the car in Sport Plus driving mode, and I have the traction control, stability control in Sport, so a little bit more forgiving when it comes to sliding the car around. Let's see how it goes. Oh. Yes. Good acceleration. Whew, yeah, this one understeers for sure. Good grip though, wow. I mean, I'm going a lot faster than I expected here. We definitely have understeer. The front end washes out before the rear. The rear is very stable, but it is very grippy, very good handling, very good body control, and definitely worthy of another go around. Yeah, good control. Okay, so this is definitely not as sporty as the 2020 Porsche Macan GTS that I drove a while ago, but it's also impressively fast and has a lot of grip. Wow, I definitely was holding the road better than I expected. Now, unlike the GTS, this one definitely has a lot of understeer. The front end gives up way before the rear, but that's really okay. And it's still engaging and fun and enjoyable to drive. And that turbo V6, man, great engine, great engine. Overall, for a 4,250 pound SUV, whew, fantastic handler. So yeah, just to reiterate, definitely not as good as the GTS, but still pretty darn entertaining. And of course, being a little less aggressive does have its advantages, and that advantage shows up when you're talking about ride. When you're in normal driving mode, this is a very comfortable cruising car. It has a plenty soft and supple suspension for me. Yes, there are other premium cars out there that have a softer, even more compliant suspension than this, but to me, this is 100% totally acceptable. Furthermore, this is a quiet car. You are well isolated from road and wind noise, and the seats are incredibly comfortable, and you have a lot of useful information out of the center console touchscreen, heated seats front and back, etc., etc. And all of those pleasantries are true on roads like this or on the interstate. Had to test it there too. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a more relaxing portion of the video. Quick stint on the interstate. I'm back in normal driving mode. Stability control is fully on and all those fun things. Now, this car, unlike most, does not actually have that many driving aids on the interstate. We do not have adaptive cruise control. We do not have lane centering and all these things. We do have lane departure alert and a couple other things like that, but you know, in the modern era, this is pretty light. But I'm definitely okay with that. I am 100% definitely okay with that. We'll just focus on wind noise, road noise, engine noise, etc., etc. Comfort. Okay, cruise control is set, going with traffic right around 80 miles an hour. At 80 miles an hour, the engine is spinning right around 2,400 RPM, which is a touch high for the modern era these days, especially with, you know, whatever kind of automatic transmission we have. This is a dual clutch transmission, and it is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which is a gear or two lower than usual, but it is just fine. The engine, first of all, sounds really good, and secondly, is relatively quiet, so it's not an issue. Wind noise is a tiny touch higher than I was hoping for, considering that this is a premium SUV. I hoped we'd be just a little bit more isolated from the wind, but road noise is quite good, and tire noise specifically is quite good. I am impressed with these Michelin tires being as quiet as they are, considering how much grip they provided in the handling test. Moreover, the suspension is a little bit stiffer than your average premium SUV, but still plenty compliant for me. We do have those adaptive shock absorbers to help us out, so it's entirely comfortable there. The seats are very comfortable, very supportive. The center console touchscreen is brightly lit, easy to read, easy to see, as are the gauges in front of me, which are actually analog gauges except for the screen on the right. Generally speaking, this is a very pleasant car to cruise around in. I'd be very happy to do a road trip in this car. In fact, I'm kind of tempted to start one right now. The Macan was a great car from the off. I really enjoyed it from the first time I drove one. The 2020 Macan GTS was an absolute riot. And these updates that Porsche made to the Macan across the lineup now are good, solid updates. I think the exterior updates are a nice little touch. I like that we've got more standard equipment in this car, and I think that it's a very comfortable and pleasant car to be in. Now, me personally, I'd probably be even happier in the Macan GTS because that thing is just like a big old hot hatch and really does engage with the driver at levels much higher than you'd expect a compact SUV to do. Compared to that, this is definitely the more sedate, more calm ride of the two, but it's also more comfortable, less expensive, and really still a lot of fun to drive. So who is this car for? This is for the enthusiasts that is getting to that point where they need to settle down, but not by that much. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I would really appreciate it if you like this video. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Okay, goodbye. Okay, how much horsepower did we say again? Oh yeah, 375. Oh yeah, 375 horsepower.